and good morning, and welcome to Lambda Weekly. I'm David Taffet, and I'm here in the studio with the late Patti Fink, Lerone, Landis.
I'm not dead.
Well, yeah. But Lerone Landis will join us next week. Lambda Weekly is and I'm going to introduce us because we might have a whole new set of listeners. We're the oldest, longest-running GLBT radio show anywhere in the world. We've been on the air since 1983, the week this station here went on the air.
And continuously.
Continuously. Well, we skipped a week this week.
Well, we had like a week and a half.
Sort of.
So we could adjust to our new schedule. So
we were on morning drive time from 7 to 9. Morning drive time, we have a new format. It's called the Morning Blend. Monday morning is the Magic Time Warp with Ranger Rita. Did you listen to her show?
No.
Oh, it was funny. I just love Ranger Rita. Tuesday is a folk show with Jenny Peel, followed by the Celtic Music Show with Brad Madison. Then Wednesday through Friday is the Morning Blend. Wednesday with Pippin, Thursday with Dave Chaos. That show's a mess. Love you, Dave. And then Friday is Christian Lee. And talk all on Saturday morning. It is Church and Information with Reverend Marion Barnett, 7 to 9. Gene Lance is on with the Workers' Beat, 9 to 10. You just heard Jim Schutz from 10 to 11. And now Lambda Weekly with the late Patti Fink.
Yes.
Who's here on time today?
It's stunning, isn't it?
Well, you know what?
It's amazing the new time change. 7 a.m. was not my forte.
You probably left the house about as much, leaving yourself as much time. Saturday, there's not as much traffic to get to the studio.
Well, there's not usually a lot of traffic early in the morning. But speaking of, let's do traffic and weather in Oak Lawn.
Okay.
So the traffic this morning is just a little bit of buzz. People are kind of not really moving because it's Saturday and it turned cold. It
did turn cold.
Is that a segue into weather or what? I think they're related.
Could be.
Big drop. Big drop in temperature.
Let's talk weather. Last week, I did the Lone Star Ride. So Saturday during the day, we had rain. Saturday night, there was an earthquake. We're based in Irving, the Lone Star Ride, riding in from Irving. It was on MacArthur Boulevard, like 2 blocks from our hotel.
We will rebuild.
It was tragic. Drinks in the hotel spilled.
Oh, no.
It was terrible.
Never forget.
We will remember. We will. And then Sunday, the ride got called, too. We're going to do a makeup ride on October 21st.
A makeup ride?
We're going to do a makeup ride. I know.
With lots of
I was with somebody.
Pancake, or is it?
We're refusing to wear makeup. Several of us are. Our guest today is Tina Yu. She is County Criminal Court Number 8 judge. She's judge in County Criminal Court Number 8.
Yay! Thank you for having me.
We're delighted that you are here. So why are you only number 8?
Number 8 is a wonderful number, and it's just one that I chose, and luckily the people chose to let me be there.
You've been judge how long now? 4 years?
I have been in this particular position for 2 years. I got elected in the end of 2010 and started in January of 2011, and I was a municipal judge for 4 years before that.
That's why I'm thinking that you were in office longer. You were a municipal judge for a while.
Yes.
And great friend to our community.
Thank you.
We see you at lots of stuff.
We do love the LGBT community, my husband and I, and we feel like it is our closest friends.
Awesome.
So I invited her for all the wrong reasons, knowing that she's married. I wanted her to come here to see if gay people getting married could ruin her marriage, and I guess not.
Absolutely not.
You're not crumbling? No devastation?
Not even crying, actually. I mean, not even just a slight tear. I don't know why.
Must be secure in your own marriage.
I think so.
Imagine that. Tell us what your court actually does. We're going to talk about all kinds of other stuff, but just tell us what your court does.
My court deals with misdemeanor offenses that are jailable, which means technically class B's and A's. But what most people would recognize them as are offenses like DWIs, DWI seconds, unlawful carrying of a weapon, prostitution charges, lower level theft charges, evading arrest, failure to identify, driving while license suspended that's been enhanced.
Failure to arrive at a radio show on time?
Maybe.
Not guilty.
No.
Not guilty.
Repeat offender, maybe.
Not guilty may not be the same thing as innocent, right?
Absolutely. There is a technical difference, yes.
So, Patti got a traffic ticket rushing in here today. You can fix that?
Nope. Unfortunately, that was my old job. That was municipal judge. This job only deals with jailable offenses, and so they will ticket you and they will ask you for money with those tickets.
She doesn't have any.
But
She works here.
It won't land you in jail unless you fail to appear for court, and that's a different thing. That's just holding you in jail because they want you there. And so that's the only jailable thing that municipal courts do. But all of our offenses, 6 months or a year to jail is a maximum range on my offenses.
Wow. And I didn't get a ticket.
No, I was just asking.
Although I really don't want to do that snapshot thing.
Oh, yes.
I don't know how many folks out there are doing it, but, 30 days, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
I wonder what you could do if you could, I work from home and my car often just sits in, at home. If I just put it in and let it sit for 30 days and send it in.
I would imagine, I imagine that I would be productive at the very beginning, and then as time went on, less and less so.
Here's why I'm asking you what your court does. There's another judge who's out there who made some news this week. His name is Antonin Scalia. You might have heard of him. He claimed he was a textualist. He claimed...
Maybe he's a homotextual.
Do you think he's homotextual or heterotextual?
I don't know.
I don't know, but he is textual.
He is textual.
He is textual.
Now, he was making a speech. The Supreme Court probably is going to hear a case. They have at least 5 cases that they've been asked to consider. 4 of them on DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, 1 of them on the California Prop 8 case. He said, well, that's easy. And he started talking about why he's planning on voting against any and all of them.
It wasn't just gay rights. It was about abortion, about the death penalty. All of these things are very easy to him.
Right.
They're
very easy.
Very easy. But with these 5 cases that will probably, this week they're going to have to decide, are they going to hear these cases or not? And he's giving his answer. When somebody comes before your court, let's say it's a DWI, do you have people walk into your court and you say, well, the police officer arrested them, so obviously they're guilty, and I know that's easy for me. I'm just going to decide that this person's guilty. Do you do that?
That's against my ethics. Texas judicial ethics prevents me from being able to do that. In fact, I can talk to you and Patti regarding things on TV, things that we may be able to see. I can talk about party issues, but individual issues, I have to be sure that everyone who walks into my room feels like they could get a fair hearing from me. And it doesn't matter what my individual thoughts are on those issues. The fact is that both sides have an opportunity to present their case, and I should be open-minded enough to listen to both sides and give both parties a fair opportunity to be heard. And my concern is that from this particular speech that Justice Scalia gave, even though there are other justices that will balance him out on these issues, I mean, we all sort of knew where he stayed or laid with these issues, but he has pretty much put it out there that he absolutely is going to be, these are easy issues, absolutely easy, no doubt for him.
Well, he even said it. The death penalty, give me a break. It's easy.
Absolutely.
That's an associate justice of the United States Supreme Court.
I'm wondering if he's, even when he says that the death penalty is easy, okay, you're for the death penalty, but are you going to even listen to the merits of the case?
Exactly.
And if it's that easy for you. That's kind of like Rick Perry, who, and George Bush actually was the one who said, no, I have no doubts about any of the cases. And it turns out that one of them, checking DNA evidence, at least one of them, the guy wasn't guilty. It was easy for him.
Sure.
I hate when a case is that easy. What should be easy is my marriage doesn't really affect your marriage, does it? To me, that's easy, but I want to hear your argument anyway. I know I'm being a flaming liberal by doing this.
Flaming, for sure.
I like Jim Schutz being before us because he keeps talking about being liberal. So following him, we're the conservative show. No, seriously, that's easy, but I still want to hear your side. Tell me how my marriage affects your marriage. Are you, and on his side, are you going to even listen to the merits of the case?
Well, it sounds like that he is making a stance that in some way sounds like he is trying to balance out what he thinks Roberts did. And I know he keeps saying, there's no problems between he and the Chief Justice. We're all fine. It's not personal. But regardless of whether you are seen as a conservative, a moderate, or a liberal on the Supreme Court, the open-mindedness and the reason that you don't sit there and say, I believe this, and that's an easy one. That's a no-brainer. I mean, this is my thought on it, and put it out there for the public consumption in the manner that he did, is that Justice Roberts was seen as a conservative voice. Everyone assumed that on Obamacare he was going to be one of the ones on the right, and instead he's the one who swung. Scalia's comments leaves no room for any judge to do anything like that if they all followed suit.
It says he's not listening to the cases.
Exactly.
These are easy issues for me. I'm going to rule this way.
He's already ruled in his mind, I think. He's already ruled on every abortion case. He's already ruled on that. He's already ruled on death penalty cases.
Gay rights.
Gay rights. It's already done.
And it's interesting that there have been several cases over the last couple of years where they've come out 8-1, and Alito has been the one. And in reading those opinions, I've agreed with Alito, which you wouldn't expect, other than, I'm disagreeing with Scalia, who was with the 8. But that says to me, Alito is somebody obviously conservative, obviously not with us on most issues, but on some issues, and I can give you an example of one where I agreed with him. He came out 8-1 for Fred Phelps. And the Phelps family had sued that they wanted access to demonstrate where they wanted to demonstrate. And Alito said there are certain instances where demonstrating is yelling fire in a theater. And the 1 hour during a funeral, especially a funeral of somebody who is killed suddenly like in war, is one of those instances where you can enrage people who were in that funeral so much that some violence that normally would not happen could happen. And he said, no, that's an instance where a city does have a right to, not to tell them not to demonstrate, but they have a right to tell them they have to demonstrate a certain distance from. That was Alito saying that. I agreed with him on that.
I mean, it's a life and death situation. I mean, truly, a funeral is. And if heightened emotions exist anywhere, you would think in the most serious of moments.
But this says to me, Alito is thinking separately from the pack, that he's listening to the arguments there. And there have been a couple of others I can't even think off the top of my head that were 8-1, and I tended to agree with him. In one of them I agreed with him, but for different reasons. But he's thinking, Scalia,
no.
There's no room.
No. In fact, he says, and this is the article that came out, he said that he contrasted his style of interpretation with that of a colleague who tries to be true to the values of the Constitution as he applies them to a changing world. The imaginary justice goes home for dinner and tells his wife what a wonderful day he had, Scalia said. That imaginary justice, Scalia continued, announces that it turns out that the Constitution means exactly what I think it ought to mean. No kidding. As he has said many times before, the justice said the people should turn to their elected lawmakers, not judges, to advocate for abortion rights or the end of death penalty, or they should try to change the Constitution. So as far as he's concerned, if those values didn't exist when the Constitution was written and it wasn't in the black letter of the law, then it's easy for him. So my question then becomes, what about immigration? Back when the Constitution was written, there were no immigration laws. It was free immigration.
At all.
Exactly.
You're going back to the Constitution. I'll go back to when my grandparents came here in the late 1800s. My grandparents came here between 1898 and 1905. So late early 1900s. And none of them came in on a passport because, you know what? Passports didn't exist. None of them had visas because didn't exist. They came here because they had one piece of identification, and that was their boat ticket.
And the boat ticket allowed them to come, and there was no one at the shores that said that they couldn't enter. And so how does Scalia deal with an issue such as that?
Well, how does he deal with, let's talk about intellectual property, say, with computer software? How does he deal with a case that arises to his court? And that there were no computers at the time.
Now,
no
one
chips
thing
back then.
Okay, here's
nothing.
one thing the Constitution says. It says that any powers that don't reside in the Constitution, that's not given to the federal government, resides in the states. How does that work, then, intellectual property? Well, in Texas, we're going to give you the intellectual property rights, but maybe Oklahoma's not going to? Is that what he believes?
Or let's talk about a case that's arisen because someone is, suing a company that has, installations around the world. Mm-hmm. How does that, does Texas law prevail? I don't think so.
And what about all of the internets?
All of the internets and the tubes.
Interesting enough. And so I'm not sure exactly. I understand that there may be some people listening to the show that may say, well, it's not just that black and white for him. But by his own words, it is that black and white for him. That's my argument, is that he came out to the media at a speech and said that it was that black and white. And he made it sound like anyone who would think otherwise is just not very smart.
Mm-hmm. We're talking to Judge Tina Yu. She is the judge of Dallas County Criminal Court number 8. I'm David Taffet. I'm here with the late Patti Fink, and this is Lambda Weekly, the world's oldest, longest-running gay and lesbian, bisexual, transgender radio talk show anywhere in the world. Well, the world's oldest would be anywhere in the world, I guess.
It would.
It would be. We need to take a break, and we'll be back with more Lambda Weekly right after this.
You're listening to KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas and Fort Worth, chosen the best radio station for music by the Dallas Observer.
They're back! This is Weird Warren Harris, host of the Sonic Burrito Radio Show. And you've been asking us when the Red Elvises would be back. Well, I'm here to tell you, set your calendar, save the date, tattoo it on your forehead. Saturday, October 13th at the world-famous Sons of Herman Hall, 3414 Elm Street in Dallas. It's been 2 years since they've done a KNON benefit for the Sonic Burrito Show, so get your tickets now at Bill's Records, Forever Young in Grand Prairie, and at KNON.org. Also, there's going to be a free dinner from La Victoria Restaurant. So come on down. It's the return of the Red Elvises at the internationally famous Sons of Herman Hall. This is a KNON benefit.
KNON and Beyond Bows and Arrows' 4th ever benefit powwow is coming Saturday, October 6th. It's a free admission powwow with raffles, auctions, Indian food, arts and crafts, as well as raffle dances and spot dances. Vendor space is available. The 4th ever KNON benefit powwow takes place at Four Winds Park, located at 5380 East Highway 199 in Springtown, Texas. MCs for the powwow will be KNON's own Albert Oldcrow and Harold Rogers. All drums and princesses are welcome. Vendor setup is at noon. Gourd dance starts at 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Supper break 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. and the intertribal dancing from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. For vendor space or more information on the powwow, call Kathy Oldcrow at 214-704-7447. Once again, 214-704-7447. Come experience a traditional old-style benefit powwow Saturday, October 6th.
Hello, I'm Christina from the interwebs, and I listen to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 KNON FM.
And I'm David Taffet here in the studio with the late Patti Fink, and Doc is with us. Doc,
this is a random person, and I don't...
Oops, that was... It just kind of went on. I didn't reset the CD player. Somebody had it on continuous from early this morning. Doc, you are recording us, video recording us. We're still dressing for radio. It is frightening. We're still dressing for radio. That's why I'm not turning around. When I do turn, I'm doing it like this, with shielding my face.
And I'm just darn happy he wasn't doing it when we did the show at 7.
That's right. That's right. Yes. It would have been a disaster. However, are we getting these video podcasts up on will they be on the KNON website?
As soon as it's approved, yes.
As soon as it's approved. Okay, so we don't know the video podcasts will be up there, but regular podcasts still up there.
What would it take to get a disapproval?
We're not quite sure. Doc has been with us. Yeah, Doc has been with us about 2 years, and he's been recording us and broadcasting us and rebroadcasting us. You can get a podcast of all of the talk shows on KNON.org. Our guest today is Tina Yu. She is a Dallas County Criminal Court judge. She has been considered for the next Supreme Court position. She didn't know it, but Barry O. called me, asked for my opinion. I said, yeah, you can appoint her. And so if he's reelected, Tina will probably be the next Supreme Court justice. We'll have to work with Scalia. Oh, well. We've been talking a little bit about Scalia came out with a statement that he is a textualist, a heterotextualist, I think. And what he's saying is, if it's not in the Constitution, if it's not written in the Constitution in actual pixels, then it's not something that he can even rule on because it's not there. So what about Citizens United?
He voted for Citizens United. He sided with the majority.
Because the Constitution says what about corporations?
Are people,
yeah.
And that they have the right to freedom of speech.
Do they have a right to vote, or not yet?
They don't have the right to vote, at least not yet.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what justice does in the future, but right now it is just talking about their right to free speech and therefore obviously spend money.
Limitedly, apparently.
Limitedly, it seems like.
Now, why is it that corporations can spend money in an unlimited amount, but human people with genetics can't? Because we can't.
No, we're limited.
Yeah.
That's right. Even the Koch brothers would have to go through a super PAC in order to do that. They could not do that with a donation with just their name on it and give unlimited donations.
Karen has texted me. She said Tina's mic is dead.
It is?
Oops.
Huh. You're going through on here. Do you want to share a mic then?
I'll give you
or
this one.
why don't you come around here and you come with me? Tina will use that mic. And
Rolling.
You'll be fine. And okay. So we're just talking, we're just moving around a little. If you'd like to see the choreography, the video will be available soon, we think.
Thanks,
we're
Aaron.
delighted. We're delighted about that. Her needles were working, so that's why I didn't catch that, and it was going out on my mic.
First time I've had that said about me.
That your voice is not working.
Or that her needles were working.
Or that her needles were working.
Or that my voice wasn't working.
Or that your voice was not working. I mean, there's so many other cases. We were talking about immigration, abortion. What does the Constitution say about abortion? And what, Scalia said that was an easy one for him.
He says abortion, absolutely easy. Nobody ever thought the Constitution prevented restrictions on abortion.
Interesting.
Because what is the Constitution might not prevent restrictions on abortion, but the Constitution not talking about abortion doesn't prevent abortion at all in any way.
It's silent on abortion, I believe.
Well, because they when that word probably dates from the
remember,
1900s.
Women were property back then, so why would we be talking about a woman having the right to control what happens to her body anyway?
Exactly.
So you're in favor of repealing the 19th Amendment also, like I am.
Would you like some coffee? Our listeners may remember the week that they had the hearings and no women were called to testify. So that week I served them in.
Well, Ken Lambrecht, who's the president of Planned Parenthood, was on with us, and Lerone Ken and I were talking about abortion services, and we asked Patty to bring us some coffee.
Of course, because I have no place, I shouldn't even be in the discussion. The men shall take over and talk about our rights as women.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
I fell right in line.
And we appreciate you for doing that. The late Patti Fink was even on time that week. Let's talk a little bit about the debate.
Let's talk about what Scalia said.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
So he talked about the death penalty, he talked about abortion, and then he said homosexual sodomy? Come on. For 200 years, it was criminal in every state. That's perfect logic.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh.
Because no law has ever changed.
No law has ever changed, and the rationale is that's the way we've always done it. Mm-hmm. There's no reason to change.
I think he forgets that women vote now.
Exactly. I mean, lots of things have changed. And so this is a justice of the United States Supreme Court that has predetermined that he's against gay rights because that's the way we've always done it. Because that's the way it's always been. That's a perfectly constitutional, textual rationale, don't you think?
Here's another one that relates locally. One of the things you hear in your court are DWI cases.
Yes.
What does the Constitution say about driving while intoxicated?
Since there was no driving except of horses, I am sure that it would be unconstitutional.
So I think you're interpreting.
Well, she might be taking a leap. We went from horses to cars, just kind of like, the Second Amendment was like, muskets and swords.
So it should be illegal for the state
Uzis
to issue driver's licenses.
Well, why would we limit driving while intoxicated when there were no cars and no need to be concerned about intoxication while someone was driving?
Being the homosexualists that we are.
There were no laws about riding a horse while intoxicated.
Well, right, that's my point.
So the laws regarding driving while intoxicated would probably not hold muster with him.
Makes perfect sense.
All of that makes sense to me.
It's not in there. It's not written in the Constitution.
So one of the ways
and there were no laws regarding intoxication and horses.
Well, one of the ways that we can ensure more homosexualists will be appointed to the Supreme Court is, we had a presidential debate, and Romney would be more likely to appoint those than Obama would. The debate was this week. Mm-hmm. You saw the debate, Patty?
Oh, yeah.
I was actually watching it with Tina. She was busy screaming at the television.
I was also playing bingo. Presidential debate bingo.
Yes, you were. And you lost.
I did because I had foreign policy issues on my card.
Mm-hmm. And
it was a domestic policy debate.
I know.
You were set up.
I was set up. Mm-hmm. It happens all the time. But I played anyway.
Patty, what was your opinion? Was there a winner of that debate, do you think?
Well, a lot of people are saying, Mitt Romney won the debate, but if he won, should we be concerned about his mental well-being?
What do you mean by that?
Well, his wife, Ann Romney, was asked by a reporter, what would happen if he won this race and he became president of the United States? And she said, I would be concerned about his mental well-being.
What does she mean by that? We don't know.
Great question.
We don't know.
But since he won, he seems to have, quote, won this debate, But I don't think he really won.
That's a very interesting comment from a wife.
Isn't it, though?
It is.
Okay, here's an interesting statistic. Of all the presidential debates dating back to Kennedy, only 7 of the debates have involved an incumbent and a challenger.
Including one yesterday.
Mm-hmm. So only 7 of them have been about an incumbent with a challenger. Of those 7, 6 times the incumbent is said to have lost.
Including Ronald Reagan, including Carter, including Obama.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you know who the one is who won?
Kerry.
No.
Kerry? Oh, you mean the incumbent?
The incumbent one was Bubba.
Oh, yeah.
Bill Clinton was the only one
in
92 who was said to have won his debate as an incumbent.
96.
In 96 against
no surprise.
Bob Dole. And it isn't a surprise because he probably didn't let Bob Dole talk.
Probably.
He probably did.
He went for an hour, or he did. He went for an hour and a half, finished his opening comments, and that was the end of the debate.
I think something not unlike that has taken place in this because they were calculating 27 lies in 38 minutes or something to that effect. But by letting Romney talk, of course, to 60 million people, and you can't do all the corrections in that same audience, and a lot of them don't get to hear what the corrections were. But the fact checkers were going nuts. I mean, they were having to work through the night so that newspaper articles could get out. But he was full of lies.
Fact checking is not going to be part of his campaign.
They're not going to be limited by fact checkers.
That's right.
That's right.
Right.
So,
but by having all this fact checking taking place, he has boxed himself in so tightly now, everybody knew he was going to etch a sketch his way to the center, so that he could go for the whole thing instead of just the far right wing conservative evangelicals. So he's trying to move to the center, but in doing so, he's reneged on everything that got him there.
And his base is probably wondering what just happened.
Right, the people who've been supporting him are going, what? He's for regulation? He's for federal regulation now of banking? He says it's vital for a free market?
Romney Care was the basis of all health care and is an example for health care regulation within the United States, meaning the Massachusetts version, of course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But he's going to repeal it, but not anything that anybody likes, meaning anything that's been
just the unpopular
already.
Parts.
Well, and he's got a track record.
Which are what?
He's going to have a vote on that one. Let's tally.
He won't tell us what those are.
No, he needs to work with Congress first.
Right. So.
Remember, he is only there to set forth principles, not to give you strategy, but just to set principles. That's right. That is what he thought was the job of the president. If I heard the debate correct, he gave the idea that with previous presidents that the job of the president was to set forth ideals and principles and then let Congress do the rest.
Right.
And so how is Obama doing anything wrong?
So he was criticizing Obama for not having specific policies that fixed everything. He's going to create 12 million jobs, but he can't give any specifics other than the only specific during the debate that he gave was that famous one about PBS.
And he's going to fire Big Bird. He's going to fire.
And Jim Lair.
Well, he likes to. He said earlier on he likes to fire people.
Yes.
So, but if corporations are people, I guess he's going to fire PBS, and then he can fire poultry.
He can fire
people, corporations, and poultry.
My favorite cartoon about this was the whole family, the Romney family, in the car with Big Bird strapped to the roof. But so you're listening to it. Who did you think won?
Well, and I think, David, that's probably the key word. I listened to the debate because of the room that I was in and the fact that even though I had multiple screens, I didn't have a great big large screen, and from my seating advantage it was much easier to listen to the debate, and so every once in a while my head would pop up and I would look, but I was much more interested in the substance of what the two gentlemen were speaking of. And so I listened to the debate, and I honestly, now granted, I will be the first one to say that I have partisan leanings on this particular race, but substance-wise, I thought President Obama did perfectly well. And it amazes me, it still continues to amaze me, that the pundits are saying, where was Obama? Did he sleep through this thing? Did he not show up? Where was the president? And I thought, that's an odd thing to say when I heard him. Fine.
I heard him rebut a lot of stuff during the debate. Absolutely rebutted. He didn't do it in an animated way and really cut off Jim Lair and be rude to him and be kind of bully him. But he didn't do that. But he did, and substantively, talk about these issues.
Well, and I heard pundits talk about, well, the $700,000 or the $700 million or whatever on Medicaid and Medicare, the number that Romney kept bringing up, the number that is identical in Paul Ryan's plan. Why didn't he mention that? Why did he not mention the 47% and the videotape that he's kind of given up on? Why did he not talk about all those things? And this is kind of the way that I looked at it. I don't expect the president to act like a hockey player and take the opponent and ram him up against the glass wall. I expect him to be much more of a baseball player or a basketball player. A little bit sometimes of contact happens, but that's not the goal of the game. The goal of the game is not contact sports. And I got the feeling that the pundits really wanted contact sports. They wanted the president to take every fact,
and jab,
right, and to just throw it down his, face and just, be angry about it in front of national TV. And I thought that's not what I expected in a presidential debate.
Well, and Obama took the high road. He was high road. He was presidential. He kept his reserve. But you know who will play hockey? The vice presidential debate. Because the vice president's role in a presidential campaign in the United States, is to be that bulldog.
Well, and there's no shutting up Joe Biden.
Oh, and there's probably no shutting up Paul Ryan. So all of this, all of this stuff that Romney has boxed Ryan into now. I mean, can Ryan stand there and say, I believe it's vital to a free market system to have federal banking regulations?
And we never said we were going to cut taxes for the rich.
Right.
Never said that.
Never said that. So I think he's really boxed his running mate in when they meet this coming week on Thursday evening. Will be the vice presidential debate, and there will only be one for the vice presidential candidates. So he's boxed him in, and so on the heels of that, then the following week, the president and Mitt Romney will meet again, and I think there'll be a different tone by then, because I think. We'll see how the vice presidential debate goes, but I think there'll be a lot of exchange there. There'll be a lot of body slamming.
I think so. I think so. And one of the things that I think is unfair with the president and the expectation that they seem to have of him in this debate is, and I'm thinking about it as someone who has had to debate issues. I mean, not in my job, because I don't deal with specific issues in my job, but previously as a lawyer when I dealt with issues. How do you debate someone in a 1.5 hour format who changes their stance from the last 18 months 180 degrees? How do you debate that person? And so my question to some of the pundits are, how is he supposed to nail a man down who refuses to be nailed down? He's like Jell-O.
He just lied.
You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 KNON FM. I'm David Taffet. I'm here in the studio with the late Patti Fink. Tina Yu, she's Dallas County Criminal Court Judge, Court 8. And we'll talk more. We're talking the debate. We were talking Scalia. We're talking legal issues, campaign, stuff like that. We'll be back with more Lambda Weekly right after this.
You're listening to KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas and Fort Worth, voted best radio station for music for 2 years in a row by the Dallas Observer. Medicare and Medicaid recipients may qualify for additional services including dental, vision, and transportation through DFW Medicare Health Benefits. These plans also cover dentures and partials. For more information, 214-501-7330. That's 214-501-7330. Agents are available from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Vision, dentures, partials, and transportation may be available to recipients of Medicare and Medicaid through DFW Medicare Health Benefits at 214-501-7330.
Want to hear some great Texas blues? KNON has the CD for you. KNON's Texas Blues Radio Volume 5, our latest blues compilation CD to benefit community radio, sponsored by Forever Young Records. This CD features 15 tracks and 60 minutes of great original Dallas-Fort Worth blues from Tutu Jones, Blues Boy Bo, Buddy Whittington, Andrea Dawson, Kirkland James, Sonny Colley, Johnny Red and the Roosters, the Chris Watson Band, the Two Tones, the Rough Cut Blues Band, Jeff Stone and Charlie Love, Dave Millsap, Sirloin and the Ash Kicking Machine, Michael J. and the Paul Bird Band, and JJ and the Detonators. We're only selling 1,000 copies and it will never be reissued. Get your copy now at Forever Young Records in Grand Prairie, Record Town in Fort Worth, and in Dallas at Bill's Records and Rewind Music. The CD is available as an MP3 download at KNON.org. All proceeds benefit community radio, KNON. For more info on Texas Blues Radio Volume 5, visit us at KNON.org. Get your copy now and hear some real Texas blues. Your ears will thank you for it.
This is a random person, and I don't listen to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 KNON FM Dallas.
And this is Lambda Weekly, the oldest, longest-running GLBT radio show in the world. I'm David Taffet, the world's oldest GLBT radio host in the world, along with the late Patti Fink, who is the latest, oldest lesbian radio host in the world.
Yeah, but I'm still alive.
You are still alive.
I was going to say, Patti. We keep saying the late Patti Fink. I'm wondering whether they're going to try to erase you from the voter rolls.
They might.
Oh, they could, but they'll be hard pressed because I'm going to be an election judge. And speaking of, October 9th is coming up. That's, I believe, Tuesday.
It is,
and that is the very last day that Texans can register to vote.
Yes.
So if you've not registered, if you are not registered
unless
to
you're
vote,
in a Republican county. Oh no, that's a different state.
Yeah, Ohio, Pennsylvania. That's
right.
all. That's all in play. But if you're a Texan and you're eligible to vote, and you will be at least 18 years of age, I've more than qualified for that, as has David.
Me too.
To be
Can I
18,
vote once for every 18 years?
Wouldn't that be fun?
Ooh.
But if you're going to be at least 18 years old on November 6th of this year, then and you're a citizen of the United States, and you reside in Texas, you can go register to vote, and you have to have that registration in place and done and received, at the county elections department. And you can go to a post office and get a form. You can go to the elections department and get a form. You can go to a courthouse downtown and get a form. You can drop us an email at lambdaweekly@aol.com, and we can tell you where else you can get some forms.
Or our Lambda Weekly page on Facebook. Actually, that's the place to get in touch with us.
Or you can go to DallasCountyVotes.org and get information there. But you have to have that registration in place, or you cannot vote on November 6th. So you have until Tuesday to make that happen. So.
And remember, voter ID laws are not valid for this election.
Right. You do not need a photo ID to vote on November 6th in Texas.
So tell me, are women allowed to vote in Texas?
Barely.
Finally, yes, we're finally able to vote, and we can actually own property.
Actually, wasn't Texas one of those states where women could vote before the 19th Amendment? I believe no.
No.
Oh, okay. Okay. Because there were a number of states where women already were able to vote.
As recently as the mid-1960s, married women were not allowed to have any property in their own name.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And women couldn't have their own credit card until the 70s.
So this is not the forefront. States like Iowa and Wyoming can tout that they were early on. They were giving women the right to vote.
The Equal Rights Amendment, the first state to pass it was Texas.
Well, I will add just another interesting fact, because it just popped in my head, and that is that of all the large nations, the large, what we would call powerful nations, we are the only nation that has the least amount of women representation, not only inside their governing body, Congress, but also other nations like India and other places have had women presidents or prime ministers, and we have not yet had that.
The nation of Iceland has had a lesbian as a prime minister of that country.
Yeah, so it's amazing how for a country that is developed and so-called progressive in terms of people's rights, etc., that we have not gone as far as many other nations have.
And it's just exploding with all kinds of division and hatred because we have a black president.
Isn't that interesting?
Or biracial president.
Exactly.
And hopefully Tina will have a man running against her in the next election so that we won't.
I just want to share a quick funny.
Go ahead.
The Associated Press reported this week, and you just can't make this up. There was an elderly man living at home by himself, was watching his television, and his cell phone rang. And so he looks at his cell phone, and it's his home number. So he's thinking, wow, somebody's on my home phone calling my cell. So he called the police on his cell and said, someone's in my house. I mean, a logical conclusion, right? So the police arrive, and they're carefully, checking out the property. In the backyard, his dog is burying the phone in the garden. and has pressed a speed dial button. Is that not the best? You can't even make that up.
That is the best. In fact, I can see that happening in my house, so I can't laugh too loud.
I know. So the dog was calling him from the backyard as he was burying the phone.
Good of him to know, to notify.
We were talking before the break a little bit about this week's debate. Tina, you watched the debate, or you listened more to the debate. It was on TV, but you were listening to it. I was more listening, and I was listening for substance. What I wanted from it were some substantive things. What would you cut? If he wants to cut PBS, fine. I think the reason that he's being derided for that is because it's 0.001% of the budget, and it's such a minuscule amount. It doesn't amount to anything. I'm not saying it isn't a lot of money. It has saved lots of public radio stations and TV stations from going under, especially in smaller cities. I personally, and I think everybody here at KNON, would love to see them overhaul those laws, because it would make because we go under those rules without getting any of the money here at KNON. We'd love to see them overhaul the rules. It would help us with sponsorships and other things, and help keep us on the air.
Exactly.
So I'd be happy to have those rules changed. But the money is idiotic.
You're in favor of firing Big Bird, are you, David?
Yes, I am. So no, I'm in favor of changing some of the sponsorship rules. Is what I'm saying. Make it easier.
I hear you, but I just think it's if we could imagine the meme we have with David.
And all I'm really saying is, you want to do that, fine, but let's get some substance here. You're talking about $1 trillion worth of cuts. That amounts to 0.1% of what you're even proposing to cut. So let's hear some substance.
Like Medicare is, I believe, 14% of the budget. So, and that's for the entire national budget. So, getting something that is 0.001 of 1%,
it's silly.
It's crazy.
Are you going to talk about defense? Are you going to talk? There are lots of budget projects that Obama's saying he wants to cut that the military doesn't want. That makes sense to me. You cut those projects.
There are a number of aircraft that aren't even
That's what I'm talking.
doing what they're supposed to do.
They're not functional. They've been ordered, but they don't do what they need to.
So
and that's where the money is being cut.
Let's cut those programs. Let's put the money into. Yeah.
Secretary of Defense says, we don't want it. We don't want this junk.
We're fine.
So. What's this? So you and I were listening to this debate, and we were listening, and we wanted to hear some substance. And the reason that the PBS thing is getting so derided is that was his example. Had it been part of a list of 25 things, well, okay.
Well, and the president kept touching upon that. He said, you're saying that you're not going to increase taxes on the middle class. You're not going to increase the amount that the upper class is to pay. And in the revenues and the loopholes that you keep saying that you're going to cut, those deductions only amount to, and then he gave a number. And so the president's giving very specifics. And the only thing that I heard Governor Romney say was, it can be done. It can be done, and that's what I'm going to do. And he never really gave any specifics. And for the people to sit there and critique the debate based upon whether the president was writing too much or looking down at his notes as he was writing versus the content seems to show that there is something wrong with this nation when we are more worried about whether the president smiled too much or too little on a debate.
Okay, Patti, what do I have in front of me here?
Really awful handwriting.
Okay, a piece of paper where during the show I scribble, right? And I've always done that. But it's radio, and you have not been distracted because every once in a while I look down, right?
Of course not.
Yeah, because what you're assuming I'm doing is taking a note and we'll continue talking. Maybe it's my radio background that I was saying, well, he's taking notes. An intelligent person takes notes. You write down a word, you write down 2 words so that when you're talking, it reminds you to say those things. As a judge, a note or two to yourself?
Absolutely.
It's what you do. Had it ever occurred to you that people in the courtroom, the attorneys, the defendant, they're saying, oh, she's not listening?
Well, and if I just kept staring down people, I think they'd wonder, why in the world is she just staring down someone? Mm-hmm. And again, I'm not saying that the president is not capable of multitasking. I think he is. I think he can be very personable and yet be very intelligent about how he takes notes, etc. But ultimately, I think people forget that the debate comes down to an issue of substance, not style. I mean, Abraham Lincoln, from everything that I've read, was horrible stylistically. And yet, he is still known as one of our greatest presidents because the man had some intelligence. And so I don't understand why this debate is turning on style instead of the content that everyone says that they wanted and that everyone was looking forward to. And yet, ultimately, the pundits won't even look at that. Only the fact checkers seem to be busy.
Well, and they were awfully busy because Romney's substance was lies. I mean,
so
they can debunk everything he said.
So why does that not mean that President Obama, with substance that doesn't seem to have been fudged, why is he not deemed in the media to be the winner of the debate?
Well, that's why I put quotation marks around his win, Mitt Romney's win, because I think it's all going to come back to haunt him. In the course of 17 days, from September 17th until October 4th, when the tape first came out on the 17th, and Mitt Romney said, of the 47% comments, he doubled down on it. He said, "I stand by it. I meant every word of it. I just didn't state it elegantly. It wasn't elegantly stated, but I believe every word of it." To the day after the debate, he tells Fox News that he was completely wrong. Those statements that he said were completely wrong. So he's gone 180 right there. And even from the debate, I mean, I had speculated that there would be some changing and his campaign would come out and say, oh, he didn't really mean that. And sure enough, that night after the debate, his campaign came out and said he didn't really mean that about the pre-existing conditions. There will be no coverage for...
And that's the thing. I mean, unfortunately, the president can only do so much. I remember at the very beginning, as David and I were watching this debate, and at the very beginning, you remember how the president, you can tell he was a bit frustrated. He said, that's not what was said on your campaign for the last 18 months. That's not what you've said. And he kept saying that for the first couple of answers.
But he said it too nicely.
And I think that's the thing. I mean, people are expecting, like I said, a hockey game. Let me toss that in your face. But I think that the substance of what the president needed to do was there. I think he refuted what he needed to refute. I think he said it in a presidential manner. And I think he said it as an adult, not someone throwing a temper tantrum.
And you would think that someone who's been running for president for 6 years solid, with no other job, apparently, but 100% focused on his campaign, might have some time to work up, his demeanor and all of that for his very first debate. And the president, on the other hand, what happened? What about an hour before the debate? Turkey shelled Syria after Syria shelled Turkey.
Not good.
Maybe his head wasn't in the debate.
I have another theory about what happened, and this goes back to 6 of the 7 incumbents debating a challenger have been deemed to have lost. When Obama was running last time, it was 2 challengers.
True.
2 people who knew each other, respected each other, and had worked with each other in Congress, and it was a much more even debate. When you're going into a debate as president, especially, I think Obama thinks that Romney is not qualified and is something of a liar and an idiot. And
certainly based on what he said during his campaign.
And a thief. When you talk about where he stands, what he did with his corporation. And I think that's his opinion of him, and I'm just, that's me speculating. But I don't think he likes him. I think going into the debate, he was, okay, let's be calm, let's be respectful. This guy could be the next president, and he's very understated. I think Clinton going into the debate with George H.W. Bush, he is the President of the United States, I'm going to be respectful, and George H.W. Bush, I am the President, and...
Wait, Clinton versus
George H.W. Bush in 92.
Oh, H.W. Bush.
In 92. George H.W. Bush was I am the president, and that holds a certain amount of status and power. And he was deemed to have lost also.
It was high road in reserve.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yes.
I think that's part of what it was, that you're just put in this, for the first time, you're put in this odd position. You know, if you've ever seen Obama on The Daily Show, Jon Stewart is dying to get in there and get in some wisecracks, and he's holding back me. And at one point he said, "You know, you're just killing me here." And Obama's laughing as he's talking because he's in full control. And during this debate, he's not. And it's a funny position for him to be in. And I think that's part of what happened. And it's not going to happen.
It's not just the person. I mean, he's holding the office, and every American ought to have utter, complete respect for the office of the President of the United States, regardless who's in it. Sadly, that's not true. But you know, I think it is, and I think it is an odd position for a president to be put in. But he'll be better next time.
I think he will be. We are out of time. Tina, I want to thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me. It has been delightful.
This has been fun. And Tina, you go break a law and get booked into her court. She is Dallas County Criminal Court number 8. Go into her court, tell her, "Hey, I heard you on Lambda Weekly." You like to hear that kind of thing, right?
I would love it.
Yeah. We'll be back next week with more Lambda Weekly. We'll see you then.